morning, everyone. This morning we have a great guest with us. This is Genevieve Frederick, founder and president of Feeding the Pets of the Homeless. Good morning, Genevieve.
Good morning to you as well. Thank you for having me on the show.
We have Roman. Roman just joined us. Good morning, Roman.
Hi
Good
there.
morning.
Okay, we've got Genevieve Frederick with us this morning. We're talking about feeding pets of the homeless. And I want to say that before we start anything, I want to give a shout out that the purpose of this show is really to enlighten people to the problem of the homeless with pets. We're hoping that in some way we will change your perception of the homeless. If you've ever run across or you've seen, and I know you all have, you've seen a person that is on the street, they've got a sign up and it says, "Feed me, I'm hungry." The first thing you think of is, oh, they're on drugs or they're on alcohol or something like that, and I don't want to give. But the truth is you don't really know the inside of that. And today, Genevieve is going to share with us about how does a person really even become homeless, and what's the main reason that a homeless person, why do they want a dog or a cat? So Genevieve, why do they want a dog or a cat?
Well, these animals, most of the time these people have gone into homelessness with their pet and they're not going to give it up. The reasons are hundreds of reasons why they became homeless. Domestic violence, alcohol, drugs, a disability. A physical disability could prevent them from getting a job that would prevent them from being housed. 50% of the population is one paycheck away from being homeless. With evictions now starting to roll out, we're getting hundreds and hundreds of calls. In fact, last year, our case managers took over 11,000 calls,
Oh
took
my
and
gosh.
made over 11,000 calls. It is a, a, a tragedy that's happening in our country that this is happening. We have elderly people that are on Social Security and their pension. That's all they have coming in, and rents have risen. Real estate taxes have risen. They've lost their homes. They've lost their apartment. Now they're living on the street in their vehicle 2 or 3 weeks, and then 1 week in a motel that will allow their pet. And those kinds of motels usually are not the best locations in town. So there are so many reasons, emotional reasons. People go into depression, and then they lose sight of what is important, what's going to keep me in with a roof over my head. They don't think straight. We are dealing with thousands of homeless people that call us over the years, that each one of them have their own heartbreaking story of how they ended up in homelessness. But these pets give them comfort, unconditional love. They give them protection. And I have to tell you that 61% of people calling us asking for help are homeless women. And people don't realize,
Really?
yes,
Really?
yeah, they don't realize that women stay in the shadows because it's so dangerous. We've read in and hear on the news murders of homeless people being murdered. They're being attacked, they're discriminated against, and they're just trying to survive on the streets. These animals, even the little dogs, can bark and protect that owner and let them know that danger is coming to us. So we need to move on, or we need to get out of this environment, moving on. And so, yeah, there's all kinds of reasons why people have their pets. A lot of times they get these pets if they're in a homeless encampment somewhere and a litter of puppies is born. Now everybody in the camp gets a puppy. None of these puppies have been vaccinated. They get parvo, and then all of a sudden we're getting calls from one area of a state and a city and a county that has a rampant parvo, which we try to get these puppies in as soon as we can.
So now let me ask you this. When you had just shared with me that you started this in, I guess it was 2006, and you actually have a 501c3 as of 2008. Genevieve, what possessed you? Where did this passion build up? How did you identify that there was a need for pets of the homeless?
I was in New York City and saw a gentleman with a dog on the streets. He was not panhandling. He was just sitting on the sidewalk with his dog next to him. I looked at that, and I have always, like most of the population, walked by a homeless person with blinders on. They're invisible.
Hmm.
But this dog caught my eye, and I was like, wow, how is he taking care of this dog? He can't even take care of himself. They're on the street.
Yeah.
So that kept twirling in my little squirrel brain. And when I got back to Carson City, Nevada, I started researching and found out that 5 to 10% of homeless on the streets have a pet. Most homeless shelters do not allow pets, so they're forced to stay on the street or to give up that pet to a shelter or give it to somebody that's walking on the street. I mean, we've had homeless tell us that people have offered them money for that dog and they won't take it. So, yeah, this is the kind of situation that we hear about every day here in our office.
Well, let's do something now. You have a video that you created, and I think it gives an overview. So if you don't mind, I'd like to share it. Okay, here we go.
These pets have a human-animal bond with their owners that is non-judgmental. It is unconditional. These people rely on these pets for companionship, for protection. We're the first national organization that provides pet food and emergency veterinary care to pets that belong to homeless people.
It's a way to give back to the community, not only by being with the animals and the owners that are of these animals, but to actually help the whole health of the animal population in town. These animals are going to be all over town, and so we want to get them vaccinated.
We have thousands of hospitals in our network that we can call upon when there is a true emergency, where an animal is injured or ill, that we can send these pets to, and they'll be treated just like any other customer. And we pay for those services. We have spent over $1 million in emergency veterinary care across the country. Through our wellness clinics, plus our emergency care, we're in the tens of thousands of pets across the country that we've helped.
We're actually touching people that are kind of desperate for help in their lives in general. And so there's not just helping their animals, there's actually just touching them and being a part of their lives. We've seen a lot of these people each year come back. One of the first years that we were here, we met a guy that was a veteran, and he had 2 dogs. No, actually he had 3 dogs, and he came to us. We got his dogs vaccinated, and we formed a relationship with him. He's now a member of the community, working at Tesla, and is doing great in the community, and comes back as a client of ours every year.
So we have emergency veterinary care. We do wellness clinics that we sponsor across the country, and we also provide pet food with the help of businesses across the country that become a donation site. And they take that pet food to a local food bank or a church, or even out to encampments where the homeless congregate. The 4th program is our crate program, in which we will drop ship to any homeless shelter or church that will allow the human and their animal companion in the building out of the cold, out of the heat, a place to sleep where it's probably more safer than being out on the street.
People could donate to Pets of the Homeless by going straight to our website, which is petsofthehomeless.org.
Keeping people and pets together.
So we're about
Whoop,
3 weeks
whoop.
So I
Wow.
wanted to share a little story because people think, oh, it's not going to never happen to me. It's just them, right? 2010, 2012, I got through a divorce. I ended up in the street from a $150,000 business into living in the street without any money, just a car, just an SUV, and sorry, a minivan, and three giant dogs plugged in a supermarket outlet with a little heater in the car, so I can make it through the winter months for 3 months. I had friends that I couldn't stay with because I had three dogs. I couldn't rent an apartment because I didn't have any access to my bank account. It was a complicated situation, and so for me to rent an apartment, I had to have $900 down and $900 for the rent, which I didn't have. Right? I didn't have access to my clients
Right.
because I didn't have internet. So all of a sudden, I was like on the streets. I barely
And
had
nowhere
some
to
food
go
to
and
eat,
nobody to help you.
right? I had a couple of clients who still gave me the job so I could do my job and get cash paid because I didn't have access to my bank account anymore. So 3 months homeless, like every other homeless, just living in the car day to day, making sure my dogs are safe, right? Now, if you believe it cannot happen to you, you're really mistaken, right? You're really wrong because once it happens, you recognize, man, you guys are right. And I've been to different countries. I've been in Iraq, I've been in Greece, and I've seen this homelessness. 99% of the time, it's not their choice. And one concept, you have your dog, you're dirty. Go find a bathroom
Yeah.
for yourself. Now, go find a vet. You can sit an appointment. You're ashamed to ask for help sometimes. And if you're a woman, and I'm not a woman, I cannot even think of that. How safe is a woman in a group of people who most of them have issues, right? That's why you see most women living at the traffic light because it's safe there. The cars are stopping. Rape is kind of everyday thing. Some people just don't talk about it.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
so having a dog keeps you safe from rape, and it's not about the dog. People don't do that because of themselves. They also feel obligated to help the dog. They will not leave the dog behind.
Yeah.
So we
Right.
have to think that out of our safe place. We have to see that from their unsafe place, what their needs are. Uh, yes, of course, there are black sheeps out there, but that's the black sheeps you see, but you don't see the other 19% of those
Right.
white sheeps that just try to get away with it with their lives.
Right. Yeah. Now that you've shared yours, I'm going to share mine. Uh, I know exactly what you're talking about. I was involved in a battered marriage, and I left the home and I ended up in a shelter, but I had my dog, and my dog had to stay in the car because the shelter didn't allow dogs. And I know, Genevieve, you're going to address this as well. So, what do you do? Do you stay in the car, or do you go into the shelter? And by the way, you're only allowed in the shelter for a short period of time. So you either have to make something happen immediately, or you are homeless, and it can happen that quickly. Recently,
Animal control can take away your dogs.
yes, right, yeah,
Yeah, that
yeah,
animal shelter, you can't even take
yeah.
them.
And I've been watching some of these homeless people in LA where they have jobs, but they can't pay for the rent. They just can't pay for it. So they're living in their car, they're living in a community. They go to a local gym or someplace where they can bathe in that. But it's a terrible way to live, and the most that they can have is food and a cell phone. That's about it, and that's all they can really afford. So, I'm so curious now. How does this happen, Genevieve? Where the homeless finally realize, oh my God, I'm homeless. It's got to be devastating. And I mentioned to you, how do they even know where to go to be homeless? I mean, do you just sit in the middle of the street? What do you do? Do you find a tree? What happens?
Well, each person has their own story, of course, but how they end up finding us is through an iPhone, through another animal welfare organization, through a social worker, police officer. We have tried to spread our organization across the country so that people know how to get in touch with us. We have a big presence on social media and a website. Like I said, we took and made over 11,000 phone calls last year. People are calling us asking for help, whether it's where can I get pet food? I'm homeless or I'm low income. I don't know where. During COVID, we saw the lines of people at food banks getting food, but they were also asking for pet food as well because they couldn't go out to get it, or they had lost their job and now they didn't have the resources to get that pet food. So when a pet becomes injured or ill, then being homeless is really traumatic. The anxiety that we hear when they call, my dog's just been hit by a car, my dog's been stabbed, my dog's vomiting and bleeding,
Oh my
and
gosh.
all of those things, my dog's not eating, it has rotten teeth that need to come out. These kinds of things happen to these pets. All of your viewers have pets. They know the cost of going to the veterinarian hospital, even a clinic, just to get the updated vaccinations, the
And you
yearly.
need to pay in advance with a credit card.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you don't have the money, we won't take payments.
No, they don't. They don't. But the 1,400 hospitals that we work with, they do take our credit card. We pay at time of service. None of the money that we get from our supporters go directly to a homeless person. The money is used for our 5 programs. Since that video was done, we added a program. We've always helped veterans, homeless veterans. But now we've added a program, excuse me, that we are working with the VA, and they have a program called HUD-VASH, where they are taking chronically homeless veterans off the streets, putting them into an apartment or a shelter or some kind of more permanent, it could be they're going to graduate and get into an apartment. But we have stepped up and said, we will help these people. A lot of these apartments, they will not accept a dog unless it's spayed, neutered, or at least have vaccinations. And if they can't prove that, they're not going to get into that apartment. So we've stepped up and said that we will help them. Unfortunately, because of so many bad actors, we were taken advantage of. And so now the extra phone call that we have to make is to verify that somebody is truly homeless. So that could be through the VA, it could be through a social worker in any city or county or other agency that is working with this homeless person. But anyway, getting back to what happens, how they find us. The homeless will go into a public library to use the restroom, to use the computer. They start just Googling and they find us that way. They find us through other homeless people that have used our services, and they give them the phone number. All the people that call our number, and we just have the one number, but we're forced to actually get an answering service so we can take calls 24/7.
Oh, that's
And
great.
that has added to our workload, as you can imagine. But at the same time, we're able to call these folks back within 24 hours on a business day, because we're not open on the weekend. We're doing all of this with a staff of 8 full-time people.
Mhm.
So another way that people find us is police officers and, like I said, social workers, first responders that know us. We have these little business cards that people, like your audience, if they had a card, they could give to a homeless person that has a pet. that will say, if you're homeless and you need pet food and you need emergency veterinary care because your pet's injured or ill, call this number. And it's as easy as that. And then we do an intake. We ask them a lot of questions, and especially about what's happening with their dog. We ask them if they have transportation. We can't ask somebody to walk 10 miles to a hospital just because they're in our network. So we'll cold call hospitals within where that person is located so that we can get them that appointment and pre-approve an exam. Once they get that appointment, they go into the hospital. The hospital staff will then call us and say, well, we think this animal needs blood work, x-rays, and then we okay that part of the treatment, the prognosis, and then, we get an estimate of how much it's going to be. If it's over our limit, then we start working with that homeless person to contact other resources that we know about that will help with the cost. Our hospitals are so generous. Right off the bat, they give us a 20% or more discount.
Oh,
But
that's
when it
great.
comes time for a $4,000 surgery, they'll write off thousands of dollars because they want to help these animals. They see that love, they see the connection with that person and that animal. They're not going to turn it away now.
Oh,
Mhm.
thank
It's
goodness.
in their
Oh
hospital,
boy.
it's in their location.
Genevieve, I have a thought, just really rough, like coffee without milk kind of situation. I provide online services for dog training since 2009, full time. I was one of the first people who started doing behavior cases online with people and dogs. And of course, people who have dogs that are in turmoil, their dogs have behavior issues, displacement, there are no safe space, there is anger, there is frustration in game. So behavior issues are there. So I was thinking, I'm happy to support you guys with limited resources I have. I don't have a 501c3. I'm just one person working with rescues nationally and with people. But I was thinking we can create an online library of troubleshooting things. So you have a problem with your dog, go to our website. That's the link. Go down there, click on that, and then you get help. Help means read through it, give you a couple of ideas, link to a couple of videos that I have prepared on this kind of stuff. And I prepare documents right now to a level of a fourth grader. So people who don't have reading skills, for whatever reason, they will be able to read it and understand what's going on without having the scientific jargon about dog training and classical conditioning, blah, blah, blah. Simple things. So you have a kid can actually start training his dog based on that documents. I work with these documents, working with Texas Juvenile Detention Center. So we create this program for kids that are in prison, getting out of there because we don't want them homeless. So they come out with already training skills to start doing some work on dogs. So that comes in the package. But maybe we can talk about that.
Roman, you might want to explain to Genevieve the type of dog. You don't really, you're not really a dog trainer, you're a behaviorist, which is a huge difference. And the way he does it, Genevieve, is just, it's phenomenal and it works very, very well. He teaches the person and he looks at the dog and wherever the dog, whatever the problem is with the dog. So you might want to elaborate on that, Roman.
Well, I'm a holistic approach and I'm a behavior consultant. Um, I'm coming in from an experience as a trainer, daycare provider, all this way up. And I recognize that the core issue with dogs' behavior is secure attachment relationship. And the first thing a person suffers when he's homeless is feeling safe, so their relationships are falling apart. And that also affects his dog because they kind of join together in that relationship and they suffer together through it. And so if those people don't have enough skills and don't have enough knowledge about that, it can cause the dog to be aggressive. The last thing you want is to surrender your dog because something happens to your dog that is out of your control, but you still can control it. And that helps you kind of get steering wheel hard left and get you out of the situations in a very short period of time without any tools. You don't need a prong collar, shock collar, choke collar. Just you and your dog and your relationship can make that shift very quickly. And once you see that you can help your dog, trust me, you start feeling you can help yourself too.
Yeah. So what I guess we're offering here, Roman is offering, is another level of service that can be offered to your program, Genevieve. I love it.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. I have seen it. Um, a lot of times during our wellness clinics, one of the some of them, and we do these across the country, we sponsor these wellness clinics. Um, we give the doctor the hard costs that he will need to go out to where the homeless are congregated and do this. Um, and I've seen so many times a dog is very aggressive, and it's because it has not been neutered and the owner has no control. And so, we offer, let us help you by, we can calm this dog down a lot by having it neutered because it is so aggressive. They're out on the street all the time. Most of these animals are very socialized because they're being exposed to all kinds of people, traffic, other humans, other dogs. They're walking the streets, and so they are very usually very social. But there are a few that are not. And Roman is so right. It goes back to almost that human person and how they treat that dog, and if they have a little paranoia, or they have some other kind of mental illness, they may be,
Anxiety.
yeah, they may be taking it out on the dog, where then that just compounds the whole problem of the aggressiveness. So you're right. It's, dogs and people, they want to feel safe, they want to feel protected. And we all have that. That's part of being a human. But
Right.
when you add that animal bond, that it gets very strong in most cases because they're with their human 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
that, to separate them in a situation where you have a domestic violence shelter that will allow a pet, but the pet has to stay in a kennel outside, and then the person can visit it. That's not a good situation. The dog's going to be barking, barking, barking. That separation anxiety is going to kick in. Same way with that human. I always tell social workers, when you have an appointment with somebody, go to them so they can have that dog right next to them. And if you can't go to them, have a kennel in your office that you can put the dog in there. The human and the animal are very close together. It's very traumatic to go and ask for help. You feel ashamed that you're in this situation. That
Mm-hmm.
dog's giving you comfort. It's lowering the stress level. It's helping. We all know science has proven that dogs can do that. We have a doctor here in town that has a dog in his waiting room because he knows that it's
Therapy.
going to help. That it's going to help. He's a GP, and so the kids come in, everybody comes in, and this dog is so friendly, and it just brings the whole situation in a much calmer environment. So
Well,
I want to
now,
point something out. Sorry,
go
a
ahead.
little bit of intervention from my experience and scientific evidence. If a dog shows aggression and we spay and neuter for aggression, it's likely not going to help. Dogs can show certain behaviors like territorial reactivity in an environment because of, they're being territorial because of their hormones, but cutting the hormones off, where the dog just have reactivity towards people, actually can escalate and redirect it towards the person. We have already scientific evidence around that. I'm happy to send you a couple of information there. Usually I see it, people try to address aggression with spaying and neutering and turns the dog into a hormonal turmoil and cause even more problems. I'm dealing with
yeah,
this about every day. That's why. Just a heads
interesting.
up.
Interesting. Thank you for that.
Okay. Genevieve, wanted to ask you, you were talking about shelters. So, what shelters uh, do allow pets?
Well, on our website, there's an interactive map that can show people exactly where to get pet food, where to donate pet food, where is there a shelter that will allow pets, and other resources in that particular area. And the map gets bigger or smaller depending on, what you're looking at. If you go over to the
Get
one that
help.
says donation sites,
Uh-huh.
find a donation site, go there, and then
Okay.
type in your city.
Okay.
Let's see what you have in your city.
Okay.
Now scroll down. Each of those, you've got the blue, purple, orange, and green, and it's going to show on this map what is available in this area. There's not
Oh,
a whole
action
lot.
program for animals. Yeah, I know them well. Yeah.
Okay, good,
Yeah.
good. And what
Okay.
else is there? Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah,
it.
that's it. That's all that's in that area. We are actively trying to get more donation sites that can take pet food to a local food bank or a soup kitchen, and all the benefits of why it is beneficial to your business. And it doesn't matter what kind of business, as long as it's open to the public can come in and drop off pet food. Now, there are a lot of food banks that will accept the pet food directly, but we like to have them go through our donation sites,
Okay.
because a lot of the places where people are getting the pet food are not the best part of town. And if you're a woman that's driving a Mercedes and you drive up there with 40 pounds of pet food, it's kind of scary.
Yeah.
So but to take that to a business that you're already familiar with, you're going to drop
Right.
that off
Yeah.
and know that it's going to get there eventually.
And I
So,
see you've got volunteers here too, so people
oh
can
yes,
volunteer as well. That's a big thing. Okay.
yes. We could always use more volunteers to help us get donation sites, help us all kinds of ways. So once they become a volunteer, then we give them a kind of a menu. What interests do you have? Here, you can do this, this, or this. So sometimes, and we have a lot of young people, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, all kinds of people that want to help. So we have a kit that they can do a pet food drive. That's just, a
Oh,
one-shot
that's good.
thing that will help us out. So there's lots of ways people can volunteer.
Okay, and you got a donation up there. I just put the link in the comments, folks, so that you can go there. You also have a Pinterest site, which is great. I'll put the link to that as well so that everybody can go there. And everyone wonders, well, why would I follow on Pinterest? Well, because you get to see what's going on. They
Yeah.
also have a YouTube channel, which I'll put that in there so that you'll.
Yeah, I saw in Eugene. I mean, in Eugene, the homeless situation is really out of control. People are being moved around from one place to another. They find the street, park themselves there. A week later, they're being moved away from there with panels. They have a park under the highway. Now that's closed because the town complains about stuff.
Yeah.
And all these people have dogs.
Yeah.
And
They're
there's
very
only there are
transient.
two
Yeah.
centers there, and it's on I-5, so it's a central corridor coming from Washington down to California. You have to stay somewhere, so it's basically a lot of things going on. And in Eugene we have only two donation centers,
Really?
only two. So yeah.
Yeah. It would be nice if there were more. We have a lot of social workers and first responders that we work with, and they will actually ship them because there's no donation site in the area. We'll drop ship pet food to them so that they can take it out to where the homeless are. So, there's another way people can volunteer.
Okay. Well, I think that this has just been phenomenal. When I think about the homeless person, I hope that the next time that anybody sees a homeless person on the street, don't form the perception that they're drug addicts or they're scum. They are not. These are people just like you and me. Things happen, circumstances happen in their life that
They do
they
have health issues and they do have
Yeah.
emotional conditions. It's not, but just because I have emotional condition doesn't mean it was my choice to get it being becoming a drug addict. So we have to clear these things out. I
yeah,
know people in Eugene, they just don't have the money to pay rent. There is no
Right.
apartment available. I have money. I couldn't find an apartment. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
yeah,
Another segment that is kind of ignored is kids that are aging out of foster care. They are turning 18 and they're they're pushed out. And a large percentage of those kids end up being homeless, and they become travelers. That's what they call themselves. And they just roam around the country, and a stray dog will attach to them. And now all of a sudden they have a companion. They don't want to lose it.
right.
So that they take this dog with them wherever they go. It's sad, but most 18-year-olds are not equipped to be turned out onto the street, get a
And
job, and they don't have the education, and they're struggling, and
right.
a large percentage do become homeless.
When I lived in Arkansas, we had a program that was called Couch Surfers, and it was a directory of homes that would allow these kids to come in, the ones that got out of foster, or they became homeless because either their parents ended up in prison, or something happened, or there was death in the family, and they couldn't qualify to go into foster care, so they would go and they would couch surf. And one of the great issues was, what am I going to do with my dog?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
bring my dog too. So
Yeah.
they had to allow for it. And some of these homes would allow them to stay for a week or something. But imagine, here's an 18-year-old kid or a 17-year-old kid that has his dog or her dog, and they're going from home to home, and they don't even know these people, even though it's in their hometown. How that forms for them.
And one important piece, sexual abuse
Yes.
goes up with opportunities being there.
Yep.
Dogs become their survival tool. It's
Right.
not just a service dog, it becomes a survival tool. No dog, likelihood to get a problem is higher than without.
Right.
That's so true. So true.
Right. Right. Exactly. Well, folks, I wanted to tell you again that our show is being sponsored by Ion, the Gut Support for Pets, and I strongly, strongly urge you, if your pet has any gastrointestinal problems, please feel free to use it. I put a link in the comments. Well, Genevieve, thank you so much for such a wonderful, wonderful show. Any last comments that you would like to make to our audience about what it is they should look for and how to impress upon them the to give value to these homeless people for doing what they do and trying to keep their animals with them?
I would say, the kindest thing that you can do is don't treat these people as they are invisible. If they have a dog, that's a way to open up the conversation and let them know that you see them and that you appreciate that they're taking care of that animal. So that's number one. Number two, I'd like your audience to know that we do not get any government support at all. We rely on individuals, and we rely on private foundations that fund us. We have spent on the video, it said over $1 million. We've spent over $2.4 million just on veterinary care. So it takes a lot to run a business, and I treat this as a business. I have 8 employees. We have a lot of overhead, and I just want people to realize that when they donate to us, they're donating to a legitimate 501c3. We are listed on Charity Navigator as well as GuideStar. All of our information is on our website. every single tax return and every annual report. We are very transparent, so people don't have to worry about where their money's going. It is going to a good cause, and one that is helping people and pets.
Oh, that's wonderful. Wonderful. Roman, last words?
No words to add. You guys said it all. And we just have to listen to our hearts, not on our brain. Just because we see what we see doesn't mean it is what we see. Because we have so many filters.
Mm-hmm.
And those filters are basically just looking away from it. It's just somebody will take care of it. You are the one you're waiting for. People wait for the Messiah to come and clean things up. You came here to do the job. You're the
Yeah,
one of them.
yeah,
Start, push a button, have a call. Like I offered my service. You have a little bit of a service can be helpful. I mean, look, Genevieve, how she started. She started by not looking away from it, and
right.
now see what
Yeah.
she does.
You know, that brings to mind when I met Mother Teresa in 1996 in Calcutta, which was the greatest honor I ever had. She always said that the reason that she is successful in what she does is because when she sees something in front of her, she acts on it. So that is what Genevieve has done, and that's what you do, Roman, and that's what I do. When we see something, we act on it. So kudos
And
to
the
you.
dogs, they see something, they bark about it. Just do like a
Yeah,
dog does.
exactly. Something to bark about, right? Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. We look forward to you being on again, Genevieve, and we've put the links to all of your pages, and hopefully you will get some wonderful donations because this is a legitimate not for profit, which we are very supportive of legitimate nonprofits. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye now.